Hello everybody, welcome. Talking about ways to speed up your combat in D&D and other tabletop role-playing games. I'm going to start off with tracking the initiative or setting up the initiative, and then I have some other tips that are going to go along with this, and it's all going to work together. We want to start with the initiative tip first though, because everything's going to flow from here. So we're going to say in this combat encounter, we have a party of 4 characters, a fighter, a rogue, a ranger, and a sorceress. There are some different monsters as well. There are 4 Azers, 2 gargoyles, an ogre, and a chul. So one thing that you can do as a GM to speed things up from the get-go is to already make notes of the monster's hit points and roll the initiative in advance during your prep time. Now, that is not always feasible for you. Maybe you don't have the time to prepare like that. Maybe you don't want to spend that much prep time. Maybe it's a random encounter. Maybe it's something spontaneous. So, I mean, you can't always do this. I understand that. But it's something to keep in mind. If you can make notes of that and what we'd say pre-roll the monster's initiative, that's going to speed up the very beginning of combat a good amount. But it's okay. Let's show tracking the initiative from... let's say that you did not pre-roll anything. Okay, so I'm going to start off with the Azers here. Now there are 4 Azers. I'm going to write Azer number 1. I put a bracket here to make sure I'm not confusing the monster number and its hit points or other numeric values. Then I put another bracket after that because here we want to make other notes. Condition that the monster has. Maybe it has some kind of elevation, it's higher or lower. Maybe it has a spell ongoing. There's all kinds of notes we might want. Okay, so we've got an Azer, number 1. There's going to be 4 of them, right? So we actually want to just copy paste this real quick. I prefer to do my notes on the computer or on a laptop when I'm DMing, but this works the same if you're writing it by hand on note paper. Then we'll give it a roll here, and we've got a 14 for the Azers. Okay. Actually, what I like to do is I like to just set the 1 first, and then copy and paste like this. Okay. Then there are 2 gargoyles. Gargoyle 1 has 52 max hit points. Okay, Gargoyle actually rolled quite high, so it's got a 21 for the gargoyles. All right, then you want to move this up. If you're doing this on note paper by hand, what you'll want to do is preemptively leave space for things. So let's say you've got your piece of paper. That first one you rolled was a 14. So you're going to write the 14 initiative monsters probably in the middle of the paper because it's not a very high nor is it a low initiative. And so you're going to want to leave space. And then with this 21, you'd probably leave a good amount of space like that, let's say. Or maybe even a little bit more. I don't know. You just want to leave yourself some room because then you can fill in people here. Okay, so we've got the gargoyles. Next we're going to do the ogre. Okay, the ogre got a 10. It's already right there where we need it. Then we have the chul. And the chul got a 7. So again, on note paper, you would put spaces between these because you know that the player characters are going to be plugging in or fitting in however high or low they roll. So I've got all of the monster initiatives and hit points ready to go. You can do that either during the prep time or not, just in the middle of the session when the combat begins. I do that first, whether it's during prep or at the beginning of combat. The players can be rolling their initiatives, that's fine. They can keep that to themselves. I just want to focus on getting the monsters put in there. Again, put spaces between them if you're writing on notebook paper by hand. I personally use Google Docs on either my desktop if I'm live streaming or on a laptop if I'm playing in person. I find it to be much more efficient and useful and convenient. So now that I've got the monster initiatives in there, I'm going to ask the players who got highest initiative. So let's say the player who's a ranger got a 22. So the players have already rolled their initiatives, they've checked with each other, and the ranger character says, Yannick got a 22. Yannick's the ranger. Okay. Then the person who's playing the rogue, they check with each other. I got a 12. Okay. So the rogue got a 12. Again, I write the character's name there. It's always good to remember the character's names. Then the player who's playing the sorceress got a 10. Well, that ties with the ogre. Per the official rules of 5e, in the case of a tie, the DM will just make a call. We'll just decide what order they go in. The way that I decide personally is I go by the dexterity score. Whoever has the higher dexterity score goes first. If that's tied, I then go to the wisdom score. In the case of our sorceress, she has a 14 dexterity, and the ogre has an 8. And the rogue actually got an 8 on his initiative. So we've got the initiative set up there. It goes pretty quickly that way. I really prefer to do it in this order. Get all the monster stuff down first, either during prep or at the start of the encounter. The players can be rolling their initiatives. That's fine. They can keep the numbers to themselves. They can even compare with themselves, who got what order. I encourage them to do that. Then once you've got the monsters ready, you then ask the players who got highest. And then you go in descending order, from highest to lowest, plug in the characters' initiatives in the spaces where they'd go along with the monsters. From highest to lowest, it goes much more smoothly than there's this tendency otherwise in D&D where it's the beginning of a combat encounter and the DM says, okay, roll for initiative. And just everyone rolls all their initiatives at once. And you just hear, I got an 8, 16, 20, 4. They just throw this at you as if you're supposed to process all of that and remember it all just in the blink of an eye, which is kind of impossible. So have the players just keep it to themselves. They can compare amongst themselves what they got. You get the monsters ready to go. Then from highest to lowest, have them tell you, plug it in. Much more organized that way. Okay, so now let's go and check out some other tips that I have that are going to speed up combat. The first thing to do when speeding up the combat, like we saw, was to group types of creatures or kinds of creatures together in the initiative order. The next thing to do to speed up the combat is when you have area of effects, you actually want to roll the damage first. That's the very first thing you'll want to do. You'll see how this speeds things up. So let's say the sorceress here is casting a fireball. Maybe she wants to fireball the 2 gargoyles up there. All right. So a lot of times what people do is they say, okay, I'm going to cast fireball on the gargoyles. Okay, this gargoyle got an 11 on his dexterity saving throw, and then the other one got a 16. And then the player who's running the sorcerer, they're, okay, what is my spell DC? The second one actually saved, so he's going to take half damage. And then you go and you roll the damage, and you're kind of, doing 2 or 3 different things. You're like multitasking, all these different things going on at one time. A simpler, more streamlined way to do it is, I'm casting fireball. Okay, roll your damage. So here we go. We've got the 8d6. Roll this up. And then you add that. Hopefully you're fast with doing your simple math, right? So we go 11, 14, 20, 23, 31. It's a pretty good fireball. 31, not bad. Okay, then you go to rolling the dexterity saving throws. And 31 on a fail, 15 damage on a save. This leads us to the next point, which is to speed things up, you can roll multiple creatures' saving throws simultaneously. Here's a little trick on how you do this, okay? So you look here and you're rolling for these 2 gargoyles. And if you see, we've got one on the left and we've got one on the right. So what you want to do is you want to roll the 2d20 simultaneously, and you want to roll 1d20 slightly to the left, and you want to roll the other d20 slightly to the right. You can roll them one at a time, just like in quick succession, and it's actually pretty easy to do. So here, take a look. See? So now I know that was the saving throw of the gargoyle on the left, that was the saving throw of the gargoyle on the right. And, there's probably actually what I just said. I think the one on the left saves, or fails, takes the 31, the one on the right saves and takes the 15. let's say that there were 3 creatures in the area of the fireball. Okay, so now I'm rolling 3. And see how I've got them? They're in like a kind of a triangle arrangement. Got the ogre on the bottom left, 1 gargoyle to the top, and gargoyle number 2 to the right. Okay, so we just know we need to roll it in that formation. So we're gonna go doom, doom, doom. Okay, simple. And we're like, okay, the ogre fails, takes 31. First gargoyle, they all failed, so they all take 31. Now, if you really have a lot of monsters in the area of effect, you know, let's say that the sorceress casts a ice storm that has a really big radius, and she's getting all 7 of those monsters, it's going to be a little bit harder to do the technique that I just demonstrated. You can kind of do it right, like you can do the let's say the triangle for those top 3 and go dum dum dum, and you know there's the ogre, top gargoyle, right gargoyle, and then you know you've got, let's see, there's 4 of these azers, so you've got like 2 left top, left bottom, right bottom, so you could do it kind of like that, like okay, sorry, I'm trying to roll on the camera and also stay close to the microphone at the same time. Okay, so top left, top right, note there, damage taken, bottom left, bottom right, then note there, damage taken. Okay, so you can break them into chunks that way. That works pretty good. Or you don't have to. Just by merit of having rolled your damage first, and you know the damage on a failed save, the half damage on a successful save, and you know the spell DC, since you already have that out, even if you just roll them one at a time, it'll still go faster. You can still say, okay, 31 damage on a failed save, 15 on a successful save. It's DC 15, let's say, I don't know, maybe 14. All right, so we're just gonna go down the line. Gargoyle 1, gargoyle 2, ogre, azer 1, azer 2, azer 3, azer 4, and you just go success. Note the damage. Failure, note the damage, on and on, right? You just roll it out, just go boom, 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 roll them in a row. It's still going to be a little bit faster than the multitask, juggling a whole bunch of things all at the same time. Another way that you can speed up combat is when you have situations that you have multiple types of dice going together that you have to add up, and you also have some kind of modifier that's going on top of that. It can also turn into this cluster situation where it can take a while for some people to add up the damage. Here's a little tip that'll speed that up a bit, and it does make a difference. Okay, let's say that this is not actually a fighter, but let's say that's a paladin, and he attacks and he hits the monster. Okay, so he's got a great sword, so that's dealing 2d6 for the great sword. But let's say he's also smiting, so he's got 2d8s of radiant damage, and let's say the sorceress put some kind of enhancement spell on him that's giving him an extra d4 of damage on all of his attacks. Or maybe he has a magic weapon that gives him an extra d4, or some class feature that does. Okay, so we've got 3 different types of dice. We've got 5 dice total, plus we've got his strength modifier. Let's say he's got a +4 strength. So what you do when you have these sorts of situations is you actually start in your head with the modifier, with that bonus number that gets added on. Even though on paper it's like 2d6 plus 2d8 plus 1d4 plus 4, and that +4 comes at the end on paper, you actually want to put that +4 in your head first. That's the baseline you're starting from, instead of starting from 0 when you're adding things up. Okay, so we know we're gonna roll these glorious dice here. It's so much fun. If that was a critical hit, you'd be doubling that. But you know in your head you're starting with 4. So you just start counting up from 4. 7, 12, 13, 15, 19. So fast. Let's say it was a critical hit, right? So here we go. So a lot of dice here. This is what paladins love to do. Smite on a critical hit. Okay, so a lot of dice there, but it's going to go fast because we're starting with this baseline of 4, and we're just going to pick up one dice at a time, adding as we go. It's just simple math, so you can add it quickly. Ready? Here we go. Starting with 4, 9, 14, 19, 20, 23, 24, 32, 33, 39, 40. He actually didn't roll that great, but still, 40 damage is 40 damage. So I hope these tips are helpful for you. Anything you can do to speed up your combat in D&D and other types of situations where, you know, there are challenges and it's high tension and there's action, it's always helpful. It makes the game flow faster. It helps people get into the game to get more immersed into the experience. And it's less taxing on the mental computing of the game master, who sometimes might feel sort of like a human calculator. It also helps preserve the tension of the game. The tension is really important. That's important for storytelling. It's important for the excitement and the engagement, that sense that there's something dangerous and fantastic happening. So anything you can do to keep that flow, keep that immersion, keep that tension strong, keep the excitement up, and make it less taxing on the game master, those all are going to help your games. And these things add up. They're all little things, but once you go through several rounds of combat and then another combat and several combats throughout an adventure and several adventures throughout a campaign, you add all these little things up, they really make a difference. So if you found these tips to be helpful, please make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. So I invite you to come along. As always, I'll have a lot more content to come, some new projects in the near future that I'm very excited to reveal. Thank you for watching. May your adventures be many.